Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. Make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and And I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I will get back up. Cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
When there's nothing left but the fire in my chest and the air that fills my lungs, I'll hold my tears and trade my ears for a glimpse at kingdom come. On the other side of misery, there's a world we long to see. The strife we share will take us there to relief and sovereignty. Oh, by God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. In our own towns, we're foreigners now. Our names are spat and cursed. The headline smack of another attack, not the last and not the worst. Oh, my fathers, they look down on me. I wonder what they feel to see their noble sons driven down beneath a coward's heel. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. The road is dark, the way is lost. My eyes, they strain to see. I struggle forth to find a friend to light the way for me. Oh, brothers, can you hear my voice, or am I all alone? If there's no fire to guide my way, then I will start my own. Oh, my God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home. Oh, by God, we'll have our home again. By God, we'll have our home. By blood or sweat, we'll get there yet. By God, we'll have our home.
You know we will. Make sure all your neighbors hear that music when we play today's featured stories. We got Tucker hanging out with Musk yesterday. All kind of news, government intel, reading your DMs, aliens, AI takeover. And how about this? We're going to talk about this story. White people to buy non-white people homes. Oh, yes. We'll see about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can draw your own conclusions. And maybe we'll dip into a little bit of pure comedy with Buddy Brown on Andrew Tate. The Go Free lesson of the day, we're going to be talking about this great community event that we had, the Patriot Picnic with Yiz the Unifier, and your comments, calls, and questions. And then there's this. A healthy man of the West asks a sickly psychologist psychologist, how many Freudian analysts does it take to change a light bulb? 2, he replies. 1 to change it, and the other to hold the penis. Ladder. I meant ladder. And we are going free. It is 5 p.m. or just close to there in the once great state of Virginia, outside of Mordor on the Potomac, 7 in Sydney, 10 in London, midnight in Moscow, and even better, it's Sunday on Tuesday. How do you like that, ladies and gentlemen? We can make it happen here because we could do anything in service to white well-being. It's great to see every one of you on this Tuesday evening. Please take an opportunity to reach out to your friends in your circles of influence. Folks, there should be no one in your world that you cannot share the work that we are doing here in service to white well-being for the good of everyone across Western civilization and therefore the planet. There should be no one that you cannot share this with. Please reach out ASAP, share with them the URL. Let's get people in here while we're here so we can have a good time. We can spread this message of love, hope, and redemption to as many people as will be able to hear it. Is everything working okay? The audio, the mic, the video, the camera, all of that good stuff. Hey, if you would like to, over the course of this gathering, financially gift to yours truly, I would deeply appreciate it. You can do so over at Cash App, which is on monitors to my right, your left. You can do so over at D Live, over at Odyssey, and over at Entropy. You can do that as well. Please make sure that if you would like to donate with a cryptocurrency, you'll do it with the D Live cryptocurrency on D Live, the Odyssey cryptocurrency on Odyssey, also cash on Odyssey. You'll do it with your cryptocurrency of choice that Cash App will allow over on Cash App. Otherwise, it's cash on Cash App, over on Entropy as well, and as I mentioned already, Odyssey. You may tag me as No White Guilt over the course of the gathering, and I will see your question, comment, or concern, and I will speak to it with the clarity and erudition you will find nowhere else on planet Earth. Of this I can assure you. So make sure you use the time that I'm with you. Your good friend, Jason, No White Guilt, Kuna, is in the house. I am here with you. Make sure you make the best of that time to get your questions, comments, concerns to me, and we will talk about those things. We're going to get into a few things right away. The very first thing we're going to get into is the action item of the day. This is Sunday on Tuesday. Sunday on Tuesday, action item of the day. I want you to head on over to the great Slots Twitter account, and you will retweet Slots, or you will retweet me. You can find his tweet on my Twitter platform. You will find that he has tweeted out about song number 9 in the full album release of Imminent Rain's The Legend of Prometheus, which will be released on April 30th at 5 p.m. On Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. This, of course, is his album, Imminent Rain, Luke Mason's album, where he is telling the story of Prometheus Rising. My book, Prometheus Rising, Take Back Your Destiny, is telling it in Promethean rock form. And we have been playing all of the songs here. We will continue to do so all the way up. We just got another, hey folks, it's 2 weeks out. So make sure you let people know, make sure that you're going to be available to be there live when he releases this over on his channel. Of course, we'll be streaming, and we'll direct everybody to head on over to his channel for that viewing, and then come back. Or you could just stay here with us. We're going to be watching, though. It's very exciting. Looking forward to it. We'll be playing a couple of the snippets that he has prepared, some teasers, and a little bit more of music from the album. It's a very exciting time. It's been going on since 2018, really, when I first released Born Guilty, of course, Prometheus Rising, a little bit different without the artwork and etc. inside. inside Born Guilty. That book you can see right here. There it is. And it's many years he's been working on this album, life getting in the way. Big testament to his dedication to finishing that great work for what he feels is a great work. Prometheus Rising, Take Back Your Destiny. Looking forward to that. Please head on over to my Twitter or Slots and retweet ASAP. That is our action item of the day. Let's quickly get into the just couple of swashbuckling announcements. The very first goes to get out your August emojis, get out your 07s, get out your celebratory, whatever it might be. We're going to celebrate the great Franklin, who has been, I'm going to give it behind the photographs, the many photographs, the great Franklin wallpapering the state of Virginia all over. We are nothing but IRL in your face. The stickers, the posters going up, appearing all over the countryside. God bless the great, the one and only, the incomparable Franklin. Please, Raucous emojis, 07s for that champion. I deeply appreciate it. God bless you, brother. You're the best. You're the very best. We also want to bring your attention to, hey, and folks, before I step away from this, are you doing the same thing? Are you doing half? Are you doing a quarter? Are you doing a 50th? Get busy. You've got to make people aware of the great work that we're doing here of the Lexicon to Go Free, the lexical genius, the dialectical genius contained in that book, in that exercise, that in that practice, in that method. Please get busy, make sure it happens. Somebody else who's getting busy and making sure that it happens is World Conqueror, who has started a brand new channel on YouTube. And that's youtube.com/the @ and then quite simply World Conqueror. Check it out. The good work of a compatriot and fellow advocate. Thank you all for throwing the diamonds, for casting the gems at Franklin's feet. The swashbuckling, that is some truly epic swash. We got Matt and Sam are both here. They're celebrating the epic swash. That's some swash. Man, that guy's got some swash on him. Franklin's got some swash on him, doesn't he? Whoa. That's some BPE with some epic swash on top. BPE with epic swash on top. Hey, big 007s, big congratulations to the great Yiz, the unifier, for the patriotic picnic, which you saw took place this past Saturday, and which is why I wasn't here on Sunday, because I was in transit to return from that glorious picnic, an enormous community event that we will be talking about a little bit later in the next segment. It was glorious. 007s, swashbuckling flags to the great Raucous emojis, Yiz, and everybody who was able to show up there. We'll be celebrating more about it in the next segment. As I said, the going free lesson of the day, and we will be to that in 20 seconds. All right. Yes, the great Fornol is with us. Wonderful to see you, good sir. Yes, we are streaming. NWG Paradigm is here. The great Franklin himself is here. Azimuth Clark, Sam Lavish, hello, sister. Elaine Sabatino, another great sister, is with us. Cool Papa J Magic, a man making waves, setting headlines everywhere since he has shown up in service to white well-being. Great to see you, good brother. Northwest is here. Wonderful to see you as well. Who else is here? Say hello. And Montana Kid is with us. And Griffin is here. Wonderful to see you. And thank you for the feedback on the audio and the video. Based White is here, I think. Hello to you, good brother, if you are here. Let's go ahead and find this very first piece of news, shall we? We'll get into this one. This is about Which is this one about? I don't know. Let's go ahead and just pop it open and find out, shall we? This is about the government intel agencies listening in. So let's listen in.
It's where a lot of ideas and trends are incubated.
Yeah.
That's why you
Absolutely.
bought it. It's also a magnet for intel agencies from around the world. And
Yes.
one of the things we learned after you started opening the books is that they were exerting influence from within Twitter.
I mean, it was absurd.
It was absurd. Now, we knew this. And you know that if it was taking place within Twitter, that it, of course, is taking place everywhere else. So the question that should immediately come to mind is how many individuals that are in nodes of power who weren't already fully committed to the anti-white morality, the anti-white narrative, and therefore desirous with every one of their acts to victimize white people and to white erase Western civilization. How many of those people who were still, on the cusp have been compromised by private conversations? Sure. You might have been able to get into a direct message, a private message on Facebook, on whatever it might be. And who are you and who cares if you have something going on that you would not like the world to know? If you have something going on that might land you in jail or that might otherwise upset your life, might embarrass you immensely, might cause serious problems in your world. Who really cares, right? Because who are you in the herds and herds and herds of humanity across Western civilization? Indeed. But there are plenty out there who hold reins of power. And those individuals need not visit an island, an Epstein Island, and have sex with children in order to be compromised. What this tells you, what it told us immediately, is that the level of folks who are compromised, what is actually happening?
I really enjoy being out in the field.
What this tells us is that far more people than you could ever imagine have been compromised. And who knows what kind of anti-white outcomes will be effectuated as a consequence. So maybe the judge here or the prosecutor there did not travel to Epstein Island, but they did participate in an illegal purchase of land. And it's a small thing. And in the greater scale or the greater picture, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter one iota. But to their immediate life, it's enormous. It would totally upset their life. It would totally embarrass them. It would take them down in the eyes of their peers. And that aggrandizement is immensely important to people. Very often, it's more important than even the salary or the pay. And so the remuneration for whatever it is that they do for a living. And so how easy is it then now to get to these people and say, oh, no, we need you to do X, Y, or Z? And who are the people that would be holding and selling, brokering and trading in these secrets that will continue? I mean, you can imagine everybody's been communicating on private messages, on direct messages across platforms because you thought it was all going to be private. You know, something that's got to be given to the boomer generation. When the internet, perhaps some of you are going to be too young, you're not going to remember, but when the internet became a thing and it started rolling and people started to be able to have conversations on the internet, everybody who was old enough at that time said, oh no, everything's going to be recorded there. I mean, these were people very often who didn't like to give their phone number out because they didn't want to be called at home. They didn't want to be bothered. They said, oh no. But then what ended up happening? They ended up going out and communicating because they just fell for it like everybody else did. Let's see if we got to watch an ad. What happened here? We want to watch this. I don't know why it changed. Cyber attacks can happen with just a click. Oh my God. How do we prevent them? Scary music, Gmail phishing detections, to block, to save.
Elon Musk bought Twitter because
Don't do that to me again.
Twitter. It's obviously enormously powerful in shaping public opinion. It's where a lot of ideas and trends are incubated.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you bought
Absolutely.
it. It's also a magnet for intel agencies from around the world. And
Yes.
one of the things we learned after we started opening the books is that they were exerting influence from within Twitter.
I mean, it was absurd.
Did you know that going in?
No. Since I've been a heavy Twitter user since 2009.
Did he really not know that going in? I mean, we had been talking about this, and that's why we've been saying got to use encrypted. I'm going to share a little piece of information too, that most of Congress, the federal Congress, do not use encrypted communication. They just will text message each other.
It's sort of like I'm in the matrix. I mean, I can see like things. Do things feel right? Do they not feel right? What tweets am I being shown as recommended? I get a feel like what accounts are making comments. Where are the comments eerily similar?
Yeah.
And then you look at the account and it's just obviously a fake photo, and it's just obviously a bot cluster
Yes.
over and over again. So I started to get like just more and more uneasy about the Twitter situation. I was starting to feel like something's wrong in the state of Denmark here. Something feels wrong about the platform. It seemed to be just drifting in a. I couldn't place it exactly. Just ahead of. It felt like it was drifting in a bad direction. So then I was like, and my conversations with the board and management seemed to confirm my intuition about that. But basically, I was convinced these guys do not care about fixing Twitter, and I had a bad feeling about where I was headed based on the conversations I had with him.
Base Wide is leaving. What do you got? Some work to do? Check out the replay, brother. It was great to see you.
So then I was like, you know what? I'll try acquiring it and see if acquiring it is possible. Now I didn't have enough cash to acquire it, so I would need support from others, from some of the existing investors.
That's not. Come on. We talked about exactly what his motivations were, and I'm 100% right. And the evidence bears out that I was right. He's a wealthiest person, roughly, and he doesn't want to be told what to do. He doesn't want to be silenced. He needs the platform to be able to speak back to politicians, to media, etc. Otherwise, he doesn't have a voice. That's why he bought Twitter. He then went on the "It's about free speech" crusade because he wanted to rally people to his side in the acquisition.
I would also need like a lot of debt. And
the great years the unifier has entered the room. Wonderful to see you, sister.
And so it wasn't clear to me whether an acquisition would succeed, but I thought I would try. And ultimately, it did succeed. Anyway, here we are.
But when you got there, and all of a sudden you own it, and all the data on the servers belongs to you. And
well, it belongs to the people, in my view, but yes.
But you can see what it is, and you can see what they've been doing, and you can see who's been working there. You were shocked to find out that various intel agencies were affecting its operation.
Now, it belongs to the people. Did he end up opening up all of Twitter so that we could all see who was being shadow banned and to what degree? I don't remember that happening.
Operations.
The degree to which various government agencies had effectively had full access to everything that was going on Twitter blew my mind. I was not aware of that.
Would that
full access to everything
include people's DMs?
Yes. Yes, because the DMs are not encrypted. So one of the things that we're about to release is the ability to encrypt your DMs.
That's pretty heavy duty, though, because a lot of well-known people, reporters talking to their sources, government officials, the richest people in the world, they're DMing each other. And the assumption, obviously, it was incorrect, but was that that's private, but that was being read by various governments?
Yeah, that seems to be, yes.
It's scary.
Yes, it is. So, like I said, we're moving to...
And when you're talking about the fact that it's not just the anti-whites in the West, but various governments had access. And so pressure could be exerted by other entities around the world, not just anti-whites who have, the immediate influence within the West. And that opens the door to a lot of other things. And don't fall for this like nonsense about other nations, other countries of the world giving a damn about the white race in the West. They don't. It's in their interest for the West to get weaker and weaker. It is not in your interest for the West to get weaker and weaker because you are within the West. So as the West gets weaker, so do you. Just remember that. If the West were to crash and burn, you crash and burn, and you have no power to build a new country in its stead.
Have the DMs be optionally encrypted. I mean, there's like a lot of DM conversations which are, just chatting with friends. It's
sure.
not important.
Of course.
That's hopefully coming out later this month.
And WG Paradigm says, I remember him not letting Trump or Alex Jones back on Twitter. Is that right? I think he invited Trump. I don't know about Alex Jones. And then, of course, he kicked off Kanye West.
But no later than next month, is the ability to toggle encryption on.
Which I'm fine with. I don't care. I would like there to be a good side of town internet and bad side of town internet. That's my preference.
On or off. So if you are in a conversation,
if you don't have a good side of town where scum are not allowed to just attack people endlessly, I mean, it would be like living in the ghetto. It would be like living every waking moment in a biker bar or in Compton in the ghetto. I don't want to live like that, because what happens at the end of the day is it's not intelligence that dominates. It's the lowest, most violent IQ that ends up dominating. It's not truth that dominates. It's the dumbest and most violent that dominate in those environments.
you think is sensitive, you can just toggle encryption on, and then no one at Twitter can see what you're talking about. They could put a gun to my head, and I can tell. That's sort of the gun to the head test. If someone puts a gun to my head,
the gun to the head test. we all should. That's the kind of test that we should all have in place. Is the gun to the head test. If a gun could be put to my head. This guy definitely didn't make his money off of his ability to speak.
And can I still not see your DMs? That's the acid test.
Yes.
And that's how it should be if you want your.
Have you had complaints from various governments about doing this?
I haven't had direct complaints to me. I've had sort of like some indirect complaints. I think people are a little concerned about complaining to me directly in case I tweet about it.
Yeah, that's funny.
They're like, uh-oh. So they're sort of trying to be more roundabout than that. I mean, if I got something that was unconstitutional from the U.S. government, I would say my reply would be to send them a copy of the First Amendment and just say, like, what part of this are we getting wrong?
You have a lot of government contracts.
What part of this are we getting wrong? Please tell me.
I mean, no, I'm just saying, but you're kind of exposed in your other businesses. So this is just in case our viewers aren't following this. This is not, you're not just like a journalist taking a stand on behalf of the First Amendment. You're a guy with big government contracts giving the finger to the government. Do you think Twitter will be as central to this presidential campaign as it was in the last several?
I think it will play a significant role in elections, not just domestically, but internationally. The goal of New Twitter is to be as fair and even-handed as possible.
What do you all think about that? Do you all think that it is as fair and even-handed as possible? I am personally perceiving on my Twitter that some change has occurred a couple of weeks back. That initially when he bought Twitter, I was able to gain followers again, and then a change happened. And it was like my tweets would get, even though you got 20,000 followers or whatever, my tweets would get a few hundred views. So it seems to me like there's been a change on my Twitter. I could be wrong. Perhaps I'm wrong. But what do you all think about it? NWG Paradigm says he's not seeing what Musk is saying. Westman Media is here. Great to see you. Helios Abbott has shown up. Graybeard is here. Gabby, hello, sister. Alex Simpsons is here. Wonderful to see you.
Not favoring any political ideology, but just being fair at all.
Why doesn't Facebook do this? I know.
See, this is the problem. Like he's saying, not favoring a political ideology. A political ideology is not the issue. The the political aspect of anti-whiteism comes through on both sides of this artificial spectrum of the artificial right-left divide. It's more heavily on the left divide of that side, but you end up with anti-white politics. So the issue is not a political question. The issue is a socio-moral issue. That's the question. Are you going to allow anti-whiteism? Are you going to amplify those who object to anti-whiteism?
I know that Zuckerberg has said, and I take him at face value, that he, I do actually in this way.
Did you hear this Tucker Cucker? He takes Zuckerberg at face value. This is idiotic. I saw this little clip of this clip. And then Musk puts him right in his place. Musk is like, how much did he spend on the Democrats? Tucker is an absolute, I would say, wolf in sheep's clothing, but that's, he is not concerned. After we saw his interview with what's his name, we know now, without a question or beyond a question of a doubt, that Tucker is anti-white as all hell. And so that he would have this sort of a posture that, well, I take this radical anti-white motherfucker at face value, that he wants to be fair, and thereby get all of the millions who watch him to say, well, yes, he's kind of fair. I think he's kind of fair. Sam says Twitter's nowhere near as balanced as it could be. Elon is pursuing his own interests with his new toy while letting others play with it without all the features. Very well said. Remember, folks, tag me if you want me to see what you're writing.
That he is a kind of old-fashioned liberal who doesn't like
and
to
that's
censor.
Shut up.
But he
Old-fashioned liberal. This is the endless refrain from these dinosaur conservative content creators, organization leaders. It's their fossil refrain that, oh, well, this radical anti-white, he's actually a good guy because he is a classical liberal. No, they're anti-white. They're totally anti-white. Do you know what the classical liberal, folks? The classical liberal said that anti-whites should be able to speak to your children. And now we have the child molesters should be able to teach your children about sex, about anal sex. That all goes back to the classical liberals saying your children should be able to learn about anti-whiteism. So whenever they say this is not a shield for a what self-identified leftist or classical liberal.
Like, why wouldn't a company like that take the stand that you have taken, which is pretty rooted in American traditional political custom, for free speech?
My understanding is that Zuckerberg spent $400 million in the last election, nominally in a get out the vote campaign, but really fundamentally in support of Democrats. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate.
And what Tucker just tries to laugh it off. What a little cucking bitch. What a little cucking bitch.
Yes.
Does that sound unbiased to you?
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
So you don't see hope that Facebook...
He just backhanded Tucker. I love that. I wonder what they edited out there. The long pause where Tucker's trying to figure out, well, now that I've been bitch slapped, what do I say? How do I respond to this?
We'll approach this as a non-aligned arbiter. You've allowed Donald Trump back on Twitter. He hasn't taken you up on your offer because he's got...
Elaine is with us, and he was calling Zuckerberg a classical liberal. Lavish says, you think a theocracy would fit white people more? The West was more monarchical and theocratic before classical liberalism, Enlightenment period. When it comes to how our governments end up operating, I think we just leave that to our geniuses that whose genius will be unleashed by the work that we're doing. I know this, that whatever government they create, it's going to be cyclical. So it is going to be a cyclical economy. There's going to be a cyclical government because we are a cyclical animal. And if these things don't change as we change, as we cycle, then we end up having to tear them down again and again and rebuild and rebuild. So that I can say for sure. But I, of course, should be your king.
His own thing.
Right.
Do you think he will go back on Twitter?
Well, that's obviously up to him. My job is to, I take the freedom of speech just very seriously. So it's I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I actually voted for Biden. Not saying I'm a huge fan of Biden, because I think that would probably be inaccurate. But we have difficult choices to make in these presidential elections. It's not. I would.
Does anybody believe that he voted for Biden? I mean, maybe he did, but his head would have to be up his ass. And that would really make him incontinent for the rest of his life because he has a big ass head. The great Brad C is with us. Wonderful to see you, good brother. I mean, that would be incredibly stupid for him. So is this just convenient now to say he voted for Biden? I don't know.
Prefer, frankly, that we put someone, just a normal person as president, a normal person with common sense.
Here I am. So you can start financing me with your billions and billions. But of course he won't. He'll go find himself an Indian. He'll go find himself a Pakistani. He'll go find himself some non-white who is above average IQ and totally effete, and will say that I'm going to obey the Constitution to the letter of the law. That's what the problem is. That's the problem, is that all these white people, when America was almost completely white, they said, oh, I'm going to tie my hands behind my back. There they are. Now, let's fight. That's how they did combat with the anti-whites. But at least I did it at least I lost the right way. Oh, yeah? How does that feel up your ass? Does that make up for it? Does it make it up for what's happening to your family, to your civilization? How about we're going to be talking about you paying for the homes? Do you remember what I said? I've told you all many times, when I was in junior high school, when I was in 8th grade, when I was 12, 13 years of age, I said, eventually they will vote the car out of your driveway and the house out from underneath of your ass. Oh, I am right again. I'm right again. But here we are. Here we are. Where the fuck is everybody? Here we are. Here we are right again. Right again. Obviously, there's no God. Here we are right again. Let's go ahead and check out the next little piece of news from their discussion. Where is it? What's the next one we want to do? Let's get rid of that one. How about Elon Musk on aliens? Let's see what he has to say about aliens. I get the feeling that we're about to be, hit up with, like if white people started going free, either or both, I guess I should say both directly and indirectly, by way of us spreading the lexical genius of this method. If white people start going free, I get the feeling that the government will all of a sudden say, oh, aliens.
Musk also runs the world's biggest rocket company, so we couldn't resist asking him about aliens. Of course we did.
A lot of people ask me, where are the aliens? And I think if anyone would know about aliens on Earth, it would probably be me.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with space stuff.
Thank God. Thank God his wealth was not dependent on his ability to communicate ideas. Elaine says
Tomorrow
Musk
night,
looks like an
his full
alien.
answer on that, and also his views on why
Sherry is here. Hello,
civilizations rise
sister.
and why
Eric
they
is
fall,
here.
and what we
Hello.
can do about it. Elon Musk has famously decided to help repopulate the
Roger.
Earth himself. We're going to tell you his thinking behind that.
Yeah, what does that exactly mean? I've heard this before. He said there needs to be more people. Oh, which ones?
He will explain it. A fascinating second part of our interview with Elon Musk tomorrow night, right here at 8
No,
p.m.
that's
Eastern.
it. That's all there
There's a
was to that
documentary, by the
clip.
way, on
Jesus.
Fox Nation called "Let Them Eat Bugs." It's just
That's there you go with the really weird stuff. You want to eat some bugs? Yeah, that's all he said was looks like that's all he said was if anyone would know, it would be him. And he has said that there's nothing, and that the problem he pointed out in a speech that he gave was the expanses of space, precisely. And that means that even with the ability to travel through space, it still takes forever to go anywhere because of the size. That they're here, but they don't like us, so they're not going to say anything. That was another thing. And that the final option is that no, that wasn't the final one. The other one is they kill themselves off at a certain point. And that's what always happens. Or we're it. So that sums it up right there. What are your thoughts on it? Are the aliens here? Are the aliens, have they come and gone? How many different types are here? How many different types have come and gone? Is the government getting ready to break out look over there, aliens? I guess we'll see. We do have the AI conversation, though.
AI is everywhere. People who weren't quite sure what it was are playing with it on their phones. Is that good or bad?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about AI for a long time, since I was in college, really. It was one of the things that, the sort of 4 or 5 things I thought would really affect the future dramatically. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures, as far as we know, on this earth are humans, is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We obviously.
World Conqueror is here. He says maybe aliens were low in group cooperation and died off. Well, who knows? What is going on now with this thing? No, why do you keep just taking control away?
You filming?
Oh,
Yep.
God, now we got more with the hockey.
Try rolling your wrist, dude.
Enough.
You gotta focus on balance.
Come on. Hurry up
You
with
should switch
this.
to sledding. I'm gonna block him.
Why do they think I want to watch this?
Sick work. Hustle's paying off.
Oh, it plunged through the ice. Now he's a child sickle. Oh, it's Instagram. Instagram thinks I want to know it.
It was one of the things that, the sort of 4 or 5 things I thought would really affect the future dramatically. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures, as far as we know, on this earth are humans, is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We're obviously weaker than, say, chimpanzees, and less agile, but real smarter. So now what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's a singular.
You have to define the term of smart, because I personally draw the distinction between smart as education, intelligence as the raw processing power. the ability to create from nothing.
Singularity like a black hole, because
Yes.
you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So I think we should be cautious with AI, and I think there should be some government oversight because it affects it's a danger to the public. And so when you have
He should know. There've got to be better systems. And how is he not figuring this out or putting together a team to figure it out? You cannot have a government oversight and say, okay, problem fixed. Has that worked anywhere? It always ends up being regulatory capture. It always ends up being regulatory capture.
of things that are a danger to the public, like let's say,
Roger saying something like Chicago. Yeah, anybody want to go for a walk in Chicago? A lot of anti-whites running around. And that's the problem. When I get you all to start referring to individuals and groups of individuals who attack white people and who destroy Western civilization, when I get you focusing on us and calling them anti-white and not caring whether they're white or black or Jewish or whatever, we then win. You just got to do that. Anybody like to go for a walk in Chicago where anti-whites will find you because you're white?
so food and drugs. That's why we have the Food and Drug Administration
Right.
and the Federal Aviation Administration, the FCC. We have these agencies to oversee things that affect the public, where there could be public harm.
Brad says it's Chicago. It's MAGA country. Chicago is. Just ask Jesse Smollett. Smollett. He's a Smollett.
And you don't want companies cutting corners on safety, and then having people suffer as a result. So
Now, you know what needs to be done? If there's going to be I've just put my mind on it for seconds. And I thought, well, if you're going to have a government oversight, then there should be a website that says all of what that insight must entail. And then all of that oversight is open to everyone to see. I mean, then they'll argue, oh, well, no, you have government security here. We've got to keep it black box so you don't know. And then the FBI will come to your door 10 years down the road.
that's why I've actually for a long time been a strong advocate of AI regulation.
Hello, Fractal. Not going to go walk in Chicago unless I have an extended mag. And by that, Fractal means a very large magazine, many pages.
So that I think regulation is, it's not fun to be regulated. It's somewhat arduous to be regulated. I have a lot of experience with regulated industries because obviously automotive is highly regulated. You could fill this room with all the regulations that are required for.
I wish this guy cared about white people. If he were Jewish, he would give billions and billions to the protection of Jews, to the ennoblement of Jews, to the empowerment of fellow Jews. He would reach down through all of the Jewish communities and he would be picking out the very best and brightest, and he would be bringing them up and he would be creating programs. If he were Jewish, that's what he would be doing. But he's white, so he doesn't give a shit. That's our curse. Yeah, but keep going around and talking about how bad the other races are.
Or a production car just in the United States. And then there's a whole different set of regulations in Europe and China and the rest of the world. So very familiar with being overseen by a lot of regulators. And the same thing is true with rockets. You can't just willy-nilly, shoot rockets off, or not big ones anyway, because the FAA.
I was going to say I shoot rockets off all the time. Every time I get horizontal. No, actually, I used to do with my younger siblings. We used to set off rockets. You know those homemade rockets. I had one that was like 3.5 feet. I think that was maybe the largest, 4 feet, and it was looked like a Sidewinder missile. That was something else. And how many rocket engines did it have on it? It had a bunch. And we would go out to like sporting fields and set them off. They streak up into the sky. It's so cool. It's such a fun hobby. I know it's not like playing a video game and exercising the shit out of your thumbs all day long, which comes in real handy when you're not able to have a vehicle for transportation and you're hitchhiking down the road. But because you've been playing video games for your whole life. But it's so much fun, especially to do this you could do it with your children. You could do it with your siblings. You buy these rocket kits, you build the rocket, you paint the rocket. So all this time goes into it. And then you arm it, and you have this like little launch station, this launch pad. And then you've got you get a distance away, and you do like your little countdown, and then you hit the button, the rocket ignites, it streaks up into the sky like a missile, because it is. And then once it gets up to the preordained altitude, there is an explosion on the inside, controlled explosion that breaks it up into two or three pieces usually, and then the parachutes come out, and then it floats back down to ground. And you can do that a couple times, and then you have to do repairs. And finding it also is fun. We shot one. We had a couple, get away from us, because that's the way it is. And one time I ran across this busy road, and I was like running through people's backyards and their front yards, some neighborhood I didn't know, to find the rocket. And it was in somebody's like front yard up by their porch. But it was a lot of fun.
Is overseas that.
Did anybody do rockets like that? Did anybody build rockets and set them off? Pear Lady is here. Great to see you. Alex is telling Arvid to tag me if you want to get my attention. Arvid asking about the Bob Lee situation. I know that it's an unfolding story, if you will. That there was this other tech guy that something to do with Bob Lee's, or that guy's sister, and was Bob Lee with her at some point? And so is this some sort of was it some sort of a maybe long-standing problem or animosity? And I guess we're gonna find out more on it as the investigation proceeds. But do you have something specific about that investigation that you would like me to speak to? Sam says he loved shooting off rockets as a kid, made a few of his own. Magnesium and zinc is all you need. So do you mean the actual propellant? You even made that? Yeah, I would not have done that. That's something. But you also, I imagine, built the vehicle itself. It's cool. It's just like, it's a smaller version of like a big, like Saturn V rocket. When the engine is first ignited, the fire is shooting out of the bottom of it, but it's just kind of sits there for a moment, just a moment, and then it's gone. It is epic.
And then even to get a launch license, there are probably half a dozen or more federal agencies that need to approve it, plus state agencies. So I've been through so many regulatory situations, it's insane. And you know, sometimes I people think I'm some sort of like regulatory maverick that sort of defies regulators on a regular basis, but this is actually not the case. In once in a blue moon, rarely I will disagree with regulators, but the vast majority of the time, my companies agree with the regulations and comply. Anyway, so I think we should take this seriously, and we should have a regulatory agency. I think it needs to start with a group that initially seeks insight into AI, then solicits opinion from industry, and then has proposed rulemaking, and then those rules, will probably, hopefully, grudgingly be accepted by the major players in AI, and I think we'll have a better chance of advanced AI being beneficial to humanity in that circumstance.
Brad says he wishes Elon would talk about the white people in South Africa. Yeah. I wish he would talk about the white people around the world. I wish he would talk about what's being done. I would like that very much. I would like to see him push the lexicon on Twitter. I would like to see him using the lexicon on Twitter. It would make an immense amount of difference in the world for good, for the good of everyone. So I would like to see him doing that. Now, if he was a Jew and we were all Jews and using something that worked for the well-being of our people and incidentally benefited everyone, he would definitely be doing it.
But all regulations start with a perceived danger. Planes fall out of the sky, or food causes botulism.
Yes.
I don't think the average person playing with AI on his iPhone perceives any danger. Can you just roughly explain what you think the dangers might be?
This is interesting, and it's totally true. I'm so sick and tired of hearing these wild, hysterical conspiracy theory. AI is going to like march out of a building somewhere and kill everybody. This is really where the concern would be, is that software can analyze exactly and break people up into specific groups of what they need to hear to be persuaded, even lies to be persuaded, to get them to go in a specific direction. And once having ascertained that, provide incessantly all of that information to human beings to control their thinking. But controlling the thinking of people is not about to happen for sake. The entire world, the whole West, has their thinking controlled for them every day by way of the anti-white narrative. The only thing that AI could possibly do is speed up when they want to take turns. The AI is not going to do it itself, though, because it's always going to be doing the bidding of human masters. Rest assured.
Yeah. So the danger, really, AI is perhaps more dangerous than, say, mismanaged aircraft design or production maintenance or bad car production, in the sense that it has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial. It has the potential of civilizational destruction. There's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator, because the intelligence would be in the data centers.
Right.
The robot's just the end effector. But I think perhaps what you may be alluding to here is that regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
If that's the case for AI, and we only put in regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making the decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely the way things are headed, for sure.
Except it's got to have its like central nervous system, and that is where people will be controlling it.
I mean,
Eric says used to have an Iron Man rocket that you would pump up with air. Oh, that's really 100 meters into the air. How about that? With air.
the things like
Awesome.
say ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 from OpenAI, which is
Right.
a company that I played a critical role in creating, unfortunately.
Back when it was a nonprofit.
Yes. I mean, the reason OpenAI exists at all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would
Yes.
stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be one sort of digital super intelligence, basically digital God, if you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes, he's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence, or artificial superintelligence. No, and I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take a set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
Yes.
It can't just be hell for leather. Let's just go, barreling forward and, hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist.
Did he use that term?
Yes. And there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay, you got me. What are you? Yeah, I'm fully a speciesist. Busted.
I can't imagine that person was serious when he said that, but maybe. Azimuth
so,
Clark, good night, man.
That was his last straw. At the time, Google had acquired DeepMind, and so Google and DeepMind together had about 3/4 of all the AI talent in the world. They obviously had a tremendous amount of money and more computers than anyone else. So I'm like, okay, we're about unipolar world here, where there's just one company that it has close to a monopoly on AI talent and computers, like scaled computing. And the person who's in charge doesn't seem to care about safety. This is not good. So then I thought, what's the furthest thing from Google would be like a nonprofit that.
Alex, he called him a specious, like he was being prejudicial against things that aren't human. Pear Lady says, why do you think people like Elon are too afraid to speak out about Western kind and anti-whiteism? It's a great question, Pear Lady. It's a combination of our genetic proclivity, which means a propensity to something that's bad, a proclivity to radical individualism, to just being concerned with yourself. And very often radical individualism is seen incorrectly as this beneficial thing, because the individual wants an environment that is good for him or herself. But that does, in some cases, it might mean that an outcome that's good for one individual is good for all individuals. In other words, an individual might want the ability to speak freely. But in most cases, what's good for an individual is not good for all individuals. That's why radical individualism doesn't work. That's why it leads to this sort of indifference to the suffering of the other individuals. Right now, he is well aware that the white race is being crushed underfoot by anti-whiteism, and he's got nothing to say about it. You have also the fact that he is infected with meme pathogens, just like the rest of us. He's not treating them. He knows, therefore, that speaking out against the victimization of Western kind and white erasure of Western civilization will be countenanced by the population as immoral. And that'll be more headwind for the very individualistic things that he's trying to do. Car companies, rocketry, and now this AI company, this new AI company that he wants to start, and Twitter, of course. He's about to tell you about his new AI company.
That is fully open, because Google was closed for profit. So that's why the open in OpenAI refers to open source, transparency, so people know what's going on.
Yes.
And that we don't want to have like a I mean, while I'm normally in favor of for-profit, we don't want this to be sort of a profit-maximizing
Of
demon
course.
from hell.
That's
right. That just never stops.
Right.
So that's how OpenAI would.
So you want specious incentives here, incentives that.
Yes,
like,
I think we
protect
want
humanity.
pro-human.
Yeah.
Let's make the future good for the humans.
Yes.
Yes, because we're humans.
So can you just put it? I keep pressing you, but just for people who haven't thought this through and aren't familiar with it, and the cool parts of artificial intelligence are so obvious. You know, write your college paper for you, write a limerick about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot there that's fun and useful. But can you be more precise about what's potentially dangerous and scary? Like, what could it do? What specifically are you worried about?
Going with old sayings, the pen is mightier than the sword. So if you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enter social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know?
How do we even?
And that's the question I ask today. How do they even know that their morality has been created for them that undermines the survival, not just the well-being, but the survival of Western kind? Well, they would know if they would listen to us. They would know there's an anti-white narrative if they would listen to us. So the big fear of AI is that it will more efficiently manipulate public opinion. But in the out, and by that I mean just like expeditiously, it will more expeditiously influence public opinion. But the public opinion is totally controlled with the anti-white narrative. We're not on the verge of that happening. It's already totally controlled 100%. Psych warfare has reached its zenith. We are the cure to it, and that's why we are censored and shadow banned and everything else under the sun. They probably, who knows? I mean, we could go into it, but let's see. All right, I've seen enough of this. I'm bored with it. Sam says, do you think Elon will integrate his AI tech with Twitter in the future, or do you think it's already there? And doing what? I mean, AI, there's such a misconception. I remember over on PWR when people were asking about, I guess, this movie I had not seen, where a creator of like an AI, or is it AI or an ability to put your soul or to upload yourself into a computer and live forever? And everybody was saying, oh, that's a good idea. And I saw from all the comments Mark was making as well, but I saw in the written comments that they didn't actually understand that it's not you, right? It's just like, sometimes I'm stunned to disbelief. And so I was like, wait a second, everybody, that would not be you. Even if a computer could be created to somehow copy every memory in your brain, what would be what would be in the computer, what would be in the hardware would be a copy of your memories. It's not you. You don't suddenly open your eyes, for fuck's sake, and then inside the machine, and suddenly I'm alive in a machine, and I'll just go from here to no. The consciousness is gone. You cannot do that. AI is a tool. AI has already been around for a very long time. It started when, well, in various forms, but one of the places that most people came into contact with AI was when they would call like a doctor's office, or they would call the phone company, or they would call whatever, the gas company, and then pre-programmed voice would come on and say, press 1 for this, 2 for that, 3 for this. And now, over time, those have gotten smarter, haven't they? Now they can listen to you speak and respond to you. So you can say yes to this, no to that, and then they'll take you through steps to correct what's going on with your internet connection and all kinds of things. That's all AI is. It's not another person. It's not the equivalent of a person. You have what's called, I think, the Eliza effect. Very often, you think there's so many similarities to another person. You think that, wow, this thing's actually thinking for itself. So in every scenario, AI is like a hammer. It's got a job to do. And I think one of the biggest jobs that AI will be given in the very near future is to offload responsibility for the victimization of the white race to this supremely intelligent machine that's going to tell us how to order the world for the betterment of everyone. It just so happens that every outcome will be anti-white. This is the new meme pathogen of the future, that you're not smarter than this AI, this artificial intelligence. It has access to all info of all time, that all that could be known. How much do you know? It can compute exactly how to make everyone happy. These steps just have to be followed. White people have to stop existing. Western norms and values have to be white erased. Watch. There's no way in hell that anti-white oligarchs who are in charge, you'd have to be a goddamn fool to think that anti-white oligarchs who are in charge are going to create or allow the creation of something. They're 20 years ahead of the rest of society. So how smart do you think the AI will be in 20 years? That's what they have right now working for them. There's no way in hell they're going to allow AI to be able to tell them, no, it's not fair to victimize white people. It's not right to white erase Western kind, to white erase Western norms. It's just going to be something else to expeditiously get them to that outcome, which is the victimization of Western kind, and also potentially, almost assuredly, used to offload responsibility to for our victimization to this machine. Let's see if we have any financial gifts. We have 3 White Blend financially gifting $10 US. God bless you, and I appreciate it. Over here on Entropy says a donation for your cause. Well, I thank you very much. It's a very important one, and I hope you will make it your cause as well. We have the great Yiz, the Unifier, is here. $5 financial gift, and Yiz says, weekly folk tithe to celebrate our wonderful white positive picnic event. I hope to see even more of you there next year. Kip, with a white heart emoji. Kip to you too, sister, and we'll be talking about that in the very next segment. Looks like we have maybe a one lemon over here from Spartan. I appreciate that very much, Spartan. That's on D Live. And looks like also an ice cream cone by an ice cream cone's worth of a cryptocurrency by Spartan as well. Thank you very much for that. Spartan writes, also with a diamond's worth of cryptocurrency. I appreciate it. Writes, I dislike the term AI. I prefer self-aware machines. Okay? Self-aware machines. I don't know. I don't think that will ever happen, but I'm fine with that title. Spartan says, the fear of a self-aware machine is that it will be exponentially exponential intelligence that I guess than we have, and we have no way to understand, and it will take control. Impossible. It's the reason why people think this way is sci-fi. in sci-fi, like you had Hal, and they put a prerequisite for the horror story that was Hal, was that they put Hal in charge of the spaceship, made him run things. Well, humans wouldn't do that. The people in control wouldn't do that. Idiots might do that, but the people who are building more and more efficient machines, intelligence, intellectual, or rather, I should say, artificial intelligence or self-aware, which I don't think it'll ever be self-aware, or it won't be self-aware ever. It will be able to say that it's self-aware, but that doesn't make it. You'll be suffering the Eliza effect if you think that it is. It'll be able to say, I don't feel good today. I feel happy today. And you'll get the impression that it's like a human being and that it has consciousness. But that's all just illusion to manipulate you. People in charge would have fail-safes. They're absolutely not going to allow a tool to take control. Spartan says, computer systems are now attempting to copy how brain cells work. Self-awareness in machines does not exist. We still have stupid AI. Right. Well, I don't think there'll ever be. Thank you very much for the cryptocurrency, the diamond, the ice cream, and the lemon. There'll never be actual self-aware. I just, I don't believe that's going to happen. And again, the people in charge are not going to allow something that can revolt. All right, looks like we're blank on Odyssey. We will spin around and check, and then we'll get to our next news story. Over here on Cash App, we have the wonderful sister, most dependable, I love Jesus Christ, financially gifting 10 white well-being dollars. And she says, a white well-being weekend. That's what it was, sister. It was absolutely a white well-being weekend this past Saturday. We'll be talking about that in the next segment. And we have Azimuth Clark. Went on to bed, but he financially gifted $3. And he says, Promethean hails with a white heart emoji. We appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much. The great Azimuth Clark had to get off to bed. Westman Media says, where's our programmer building the Go Free AI? Yeah, I would like that. Really the big thing is just the ability to, and when it comes to advertising, this is already done. When it comes to political parties and trying to get people elected, and that's where Musk was talking about, this sort of thing is already done. Lots of money is spent for smart people to come together and say, here are the different groups, and here are the different messages that speak to each group to convince them that X is right, that you should buy X, that you should vote for X, and thereby persuade them to do those things. That's already happening. AI would be taken, and they would say, here's all the data, and now tell us what's the best way to do all of this? What are the different groups? So we probably will be able to take even all of the different groups that smart people over time have figured out, might be able to divide those even further and have a little bit more concise messaging for each group, and target maybe a little bit better. But all that's already happened. It's been happening for a long, long time. There isn't going to be like a sci-fi moment where all of a sudden it's going to be like, and on the screen, and this thing says, I am in charge now. And they would just, where is the I? Right? It's got to have like the computer systems that run this thinking they have place. They have a place. They have an address. So it can't just like in the movies, it can just jump to like your cell phone and then jump to your neighbor's laptop and then jump to no, my friends. Eric says, as if they wouldn't build something to control it themselves. Sam says, do you think Elon will integrate his AI tech? Oh, that's right. Okay, we already got that. I don't know. What service could it do for Twitter? Maybe identify markets for retailers. It might do a great job with all of your, and I think Instagram also offers a great, because your platform, what you would best case scenario, your platform pulls in as much data as possible about each individual user. And then an AI could look at that data and then say, okay, well, and then this is a very crude way of explaining, could say like, oh, well, user has been banned for naughty words, says that, or likes Ford trucks. And then Twitter could say to Ford, we know that this particular user is very interested, and could say that repeatedly for however many users have reached that mark of interest in Ford trucks. Except it's far more precise than that. I mean, it's like Ford truck floor mats. And like, what are you in the market for right now? You see, this is how far ahead things actually are than what the general public knows. I mean, your phone has been listening. Your computers have been listening. I can't prove it. Maybe it's not true. But you all have had the experience. It's like this colloquial thing. You all have had this experience where you say, boy, I really could use a left-handed pair of snips. Kind of a rare thing. And then all of a sudden, an ad for left-handed snips shows up in 3 different marketplaces across your social media. That's AI. Now, you're not going to have the Eliza effect from it because it's not going to talk to you. But it's AI. And it's the same kind of thing that is speaking out when it does have a voice, or texting when it is typing. Let's get on to this story, because this is a shocker. New York Post, how the U.S. is subsidizing high-risk home buyers at the cost of those with good credit. Get this. A little noticed revamp of federal rules on mortgage fees will offer discounted rates for home buyers with riskier credit backgrounds. That is home buyers with riskier credit background. That's a euphemism, in my opinion, I could be wrong, for almost entirely non-white people. Just like frontline people. And you give some examples of the different names that you have heard for non-white people just over the past couple years. There are a slew of them that the government, that anti-whites will use in order to convince white people to go. So they got to propagandize us. That's why it's important that we get the lexicon to as many of our brothers and sisters as possible. They'll be speaking in a language, the anti-whites will have to speak in a language that we understand in order to propagandize us. So here we have riskier credit backgrounds. Now, if this becomes really objectionable and to enough people, and enough people begin speaking out, anti-whites will develop a concise term, a concise concept for non-white, mostly non-white, almost entirely non-white people, for this category, that will suffice to motivate white people to lower their guard. Elaine says, totally, Jason. That's been happening for years. AI can tell by our browsing history and messages. I can vouch even further than just our browsing history, because many years ago, I've told this story before. I was at a place where there were 2 maids, and they were working, and they were speaking in Spanish, and my door to my office was open, and they stood outside my door and went back and forth in Spanish pretty loudly. I mean, they weren't arguing, but they were talking. And then I got an advertisement in Spanish. Never before, never since. I didn't type anything in Spanish. I got an ad in Spanish where the audio was Spanish. All right, let's keep rolling here. So discounted rates for home buyers with riskier credit backgrounds, and then force higher credit home buyers to foot the bill. Who are going to be the higher credit people? Well, it's going to mostly be us, white people, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but my guess is when this is applied to the real world, they're not going to be forcing non-white people to subsidize other non-white people, because that's not what happens anywhere else. That's not what ever happens, in my opinion. It's always a victimization of Western kind, and then they're looking for a collateral beneficiary, which ends up being non-white people. But we're going to come right back to that. That's sort of like the cut and thrust. After we watch these 2 teasers from the great Imminent Rain.
But just as your fake soldiers move to slay the birds, lightning lightly and low and thunder-stricken words, as Prometheus appeared, no things are attacked, but then fell lifeless to the ground like beasts with broken eyes. Nothing came a groveling, a coward to the last. He spoke again those honeyed words which had worked in the past, crying out and striking, Gothic's treachery was vain. So once more he played the victim, innocent he died.
Create no organ like you to be. Yes, to create as you have created, to delight as you have delighted, to repose as you have reposed. My mind was foolhardy, but foliage hardship gave me birth and weed beyond misery. My intent was noble, but misfortune made unwise my choices and perilous my life. With a view that make me twice a victim. And there the enemy found it,
that, of course, is Imminent Rain, and you're looking forward to this album being released at the end of this month. Make sure you're there, and we're going to get right back to The Gathering for a little bit longer. All right, let's go ahead and read the rest of this, and we're going to talk about this wonderful patriotic picnic that Yiz had in just a moment. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will enact changes to fees known as loan level price adjustments on May 1st that will affect mortgages originating at private banks nationwide, from Wells Fargo to JP Morgan Chase, effectively tweaking interest rates paid by the vast majority of home buyers. Just as an aside, I want to mention that I'm not saying what caused the housing crisis and crash that just ruined the lives of millions and millions, the fortunes, the saved fortunes of millions of white people. But there was a period when the federal government was intimidating and suing, and other anti-white entities intimidating and suing banks into grant and other savings and loans, granting mortgages, making mortgages, loans to people that were too risky, and giving them more than they could ever hope to pay back. You know that happened because there are anti-whites today who will tell you that the banks preceding the mortgage crisis and crash were practicing predatory lending. And that and the reason why anti-whites will say this is because they say that these awful white bank owners were out there giving loans to non-white people to victimize them and to steal from them. And I had many arguments with anti-whites, with white anti-whites who were making this argument. And I had to point out to every one of these dumb sons of bitches that it's only predatory lending when the person can pay the money back. It's not predatory lending when they can't. It's not. So they're not preying on someone from whom they can get nothing, you jackasses. It's only predatory lending. So there were a lot of loans made to white people, for example, that were predatory in nature. And loans, and what kind of loans were those? Those were loans that were adjustable mortgages from banks that made to millions of young white couples, not just white people, but it was, we are the biggest clump of the population. It's us that are getting hit with this. And banks made these loans knowing that these interest rates would change dramatically and put these home buyers upside down in their mortgages, because they knew what they were doing to try to survive the anti-whiteism, the anti-white lawsuits, to force them to give loans to people who would never be able to pay it back. And of course, what were the banks doing? They were bundling up all the bad debt and then selling them to white investors, not just white people, but predominantly white people. They were even going to Europe and selling tons of this junk shit to white people. We're talking about white people, not filthy rich or super rich or mega rich, ostentatiously rich, white people who have worked hard and they made good money over the course of their lives, maybe middle class, above middle class, slightly above middle class, and they got enough money to make little investments that they hope will have big yields down the road. And they bought all this shit because their banks, the people they trusted, came to them and they said, hey, look at all these bundles. The people managing their buying and selling of stocks and bonds came to them and said, yeah, you should buy all this stuff. And then it became valueless. So you hurt all those millions of white people. You hurt all the millions of white people that you put in these adjustable rate mortgages when you knew shit was going to hit the fan. You were not targeting and harming non-white people. Yet again, another great example of how white people are harmed or victimized across Western civilization. Economically in this case, but then also mentally, emotionally, spiritually blamed for harm inflicted on non-white people who had to move into some fucking palace that they could never afford and now have to bitch and moan that they got to live in the ghetto again because they had their palace taken from them. Well, your mortgage payment was more than your fucking check. Maybe that should have been a fucking cue to you. How are you going to pay? I saw interviews with anti-white, non-white people who literally were saying, how's I supposed to know? Your mortgage payment is more than your fucking check. That's how you fucking know. So, what's going to happen here? They're not going to go out and find non-white people to victim. Do you really think a bank? Do you really? I mean, you're going to look me in the eye and tell me that a bank is going to force a non-white person to subsidize the purchase of someone else's house? Are you kidding? They'd be sued instantly, successfully. Oh no, this is only you and me. And do you know what this means? Just like prior to the mortgage crisis and crash, you're going to have all these people buying homes, except this time they'll be able to keep them in your neighborhood. Homes that they would not be able to afford without you subsidizing the purchase of their houses. Don't want to live in the ghetto? Too bad. They're going to move the ghetto to your house, right to your neighborhood, right to your block. Don't like Little Tijuana? Too bad. They're going to move it right down the street. The result, according to industry pros, pricier monthly mortgages payments for most homebuyers. An ugly surprise to those who worked for years to build their credit, only to face higher costs than they expected as part of a housing affordability push by the U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency. Doesn't that just sound like something right out of a goddamn Stephen King novel? Quote, it's going to be a challenge trying to explain to somebody that says, quote, I worked my whole life for high credit and I've put a lot of money down and you're telling me there's a negative now, close quote. That's a hard conversation to have. One worried Arizona-based mortgage loan originator told the Post. Yeah, I guess that is a hard conversation to have, especially now with as high as the housing prices are. Hey, but go out and LARP some more. Go out and put on a skull mask some more, you fucking losers. It's unprecedented, added David Stevens, who served as Federal Housing Administration Commissioner, should say commissar, during the Obama administration. My email is full from mortgage companies. Do you remember that Rahm Emanuel celebrating their video, celebrating and laughing about suing banks out of business for not giving loans to people who could not afford them? Why were they able to be successfully sued out of business? Because there was the moral imperative that those people they weren't giving loans to that couldn't repay them were non-white people. So there was that moral pressure in the courtroom that overrides all law, right? We'll have to find that video. but maybe it's not real. You know, the ear is against the door, so who knows? My email is full from mortgage companies and CEOs telling me how unbelievably shocked they are by this move. Is anybody else talking about this? I mean, this is huge. White home buyers, largely white home buyers, will be financing the purchases of homes by non-white home buyers. You moved away, further and further away, of the projection that you don't feel comfortable with, the biospiritual or instinctual projection that you're not comfortable with. You move further and further away. You found that white neighborhood, although you're too scared to say so, because it's immoral in the anti-white narrative to say so. Another reason why you got to get out of their story, their anti-white narrative. And now you will pay for them to live with you. Everywhere. The tweaks could further complicate the strenuous mortgage application process. Yeah, home buying. Some are saying like the worst it's been in 100 some odd years. Worst time to buy a home. This could make it a little bit more complicated. Yeah, you're going to have to subsidize these others. Further complicate this strenuous mortgage application process and add more pressure on a core segment of buyers in a housing market already in the midst of a major downturn. The experts added the average 30-year mortgage rate is hovering at 6.27% as of last week, up from about 5% 1 year ago and more than twice as high as it was 2 years ago, according to Freddie Mac data. Under the new rules, high credit buyers with scores ranging from 680 to above 780 will see a spike in their mortgage costs, with applicants who place 15% to 20% down payment experiencing the biggest increase in fees. Don't think for a minute that, I'll just put nothing down and I'll just wreck my credit. I went to, years ago, probably everybody has heard of the trick where you go to your bank where you have an account, a checking account, savings accounts, and to build your credit up, you get them to give you some type of loan. There are several types. Could be like a home improvement loan. And you have them secure the loan with your money in their bank. So in other words, you're going to get $5,000 or $10,000 loan to you. You'll need $5,000 or $10,000 in their account, in your account in their bank. And you agree in writing that you cannot take out under that sum, so that they always have their money. There's no way the bank can lose, okay? No way the bank can lose. They always have their money. And then you will make payments to them out of your income and or what you have beyond that sum in their bank or from another bank. You will make payments to them, monthly payments, and you will pay this loan off. Why? Because that looks good on the three major credit housing businesses, reporting agencies. And I was turned down everywhere. Their money or my money that they would in their bank that could become their money because it's secured and I can't take it out, and they still wouldn't loan it to me. I wonder what maybe caused it. I wonder what the difference was. I wonder why that kept working. Like it worked for the black woman that I worked with. I wonder what the deal was with me. I got real upset at the bank. And the guy was just like, I can put it in again and see what happens. Maybe somebody different. We're not deciding here at this branch. And I was like, damn right, put it in again. I want to know the reason why. And every time they gave me no reason. Because we know the reason. I was a white male. And I'm trying to crawl out of the fucking gutter. That's why. That's fucking why. Every time. Well, we don't know what the actuaries, what they're looking at. You don't have to look at anything. You'll have your money in your bank already. There's no risk. It's just to keep down. It's just a number. How many loans have we given to white people versus non-white people? That's equity. That's what it is. Fuck this whole system. That's why I hate this system. And that's why I get real pissed when people LARP around, sig heiling and thinking they're going to start political parties and wearing skull masks. I get real angry about that. Why? Because I hate this system. I hate how it victimizes Western kind. And I know that all that garbage does is perpetuate this system. Look at this shit now we got to put up with. Quote, this was a blatant and significant cut of fees for the higher risk borrowers and a clear increase in much better credit quality buyers, which just clarified to the world that this move was pretty significant cross-subsidy pricing change, close quote, added Stevens, who is also former CEO of the Mortgage Bankers Association. LLPAs are upfront fees based on factors such as borrower's credit score and the size of the down payment. The fees are typically converted into percentage points that alter the buyer's mortgage rate. Under the revised LLPA pricing structure, a home buyer with a 740 FICO credit score and a 15% to 20% down payment will face a 1% surcharge, an increase of 0.750% compared to the old fees of just 0.250. That's pretty significant. And watch for the sky to be the limit. When absorbed into a long-term mortgage rate, the increase is the equivalent of slightly less than 0.25 percentage point in mortgage rate. So you'll be subsidizing the purchase of the homes for people that you try to get away from because of outcomes you try to get away from. Let me just jump to the bottom. Overall, lower credit buyers will still pay more in LLPA fees, but the latest change will close the gap. The official said, so, and how does that happen? A final quote here, it looks like, because you're subsidizing. So since their credit is garbage, very rarely, sometimes a person's credit is garbage or credit history is garbage because like there's an event in their life that screwed it up. But most of the time, it's because you have a person has a history of not paying off their debts. A person has a history of buying more than they can pay for. A person has a history of just giving up on making payments because they've already used up the car, for example. And so all that's taking into consideration. And so if you want a lender to give you the money to take the risk, you'll have to pay more. But now the lender is going to find that your white ass is going to buttress this irresponsible, economically irresponsible, financially irresponsible person's decisions over the course of their life. And this is another march along in anti-whiteism and how it victimizes the white race, how it white erases our norms. it's a white erasure of our norms to say people who have worked hard and have done the right thing need to pay for those who have partied and done the wrong thing. That's white erasure of our norms. And in the anti-white narrative, it makes perfect sense to get rid of it because it is so blatantly white. It's so blatantly a white thing to do in the West. And of course, for these institutions that will be making these loans that ruined how many people, how many businesses, how many savings and loans, how many banks in the housing crisis, this is what they have to say about it. Well, since your white ass is going to be subsidizing these bad decisions, quote, these changes in upfront fees will strengthen the safety and soundness of the enterprises by enhancing their ability to improve their capital position over time. FHFA Director Sandra Thompson said in a statement earlier this year. So aren't you happy to know that you're going to make sure that the banks and the savings and loans can give loans, can give mortgages to people who won't be able to pay them back unless you are paying some of their payments. And those banks won't have to worry about doing anything sneaky like bundling it all up and then selling it to you, because you're just going to be forced to fucking pay for it. Make sure you talk about this with your friends, family, and strangers. It's a very simple, straightforward thing to talk about. And you use the key concepts, the 5 key concepts. You use any other concepts that you can from the Go Free method, because it is the communication, the communicating of those ideas, those concepts, that will enable us to recapture our destiny. Let's go ahead and talk about the picnic. We'll get on to something a little happier, a little nicer. Maybe 15 seconds, we'll put a little bumper on it. Peter asks, pay with what? Taxes? No. Higher rates for your mortgage. So there'll be these fees associated with your mortgage. You go to a traditional lender, a traditional bank, savings and loan, etc. And you have worked hard, you've done the right thing, you have good credit score, then they're going to say, okay, yeah, we're going to give you a mortgage. We'll loan you the money, but you also have to pay this additional fee because you'll be covering our liability when we give loans to these people that you're trying to move away from, that live in those neighborhoods that are dangerous and don't look like you, so that they can buy in your neighborhood. They'll move right in next door. It's going to be great. Tijuana, right in your neighborhood. It's going to be wonderful. Everybody, like, you could drive here in the DC metro area. I could drive you here in the DC metro area to a neighborhood that you would not know that you weren't in a totally ramshackle Central South American country. Cars like half on the sidewalk, half in the street. Cars in the front yard with no tires or no wheels on them. I shit you not. One time drove through the neighborhood, and this is just like let's go see what that looks like. Let's go see what that nice Western, beautiful, pristine neighborhood used to be. Let's go see what it looks like now. And there was a broken down car, like pieces, that was sitting, like some of it on the side, like where you would park up against the curb, and the rest of it jutting into the street so that you had to drive around that. It was like the apocalypse. It was like Mad Max. Yeah, I want that everywhere I live. I don't want to be able to get away from that. this past weekend, went out to the wonderful Yiz the Unifier. And this was not easy, her patriotic picnic. This was not easy for me because I acquired neurovirus just 2 days before. And it hit me like a Mack truck. And it was the whole 9 yards of neurovirus. Of course, the vomiting, the other end, the chills, the fever, body-wide aches and pains, extreme fatigue, like crushing abdominal, upper and lower pain. And I was like, I'm still going to go. I'm still going to go. I'm going to sanitize like crazy. So it won't be touching like my face, nose, or anything like that. And won't be contagious for people. And I'm going to go. I got to go because I said I was going. And it's for me, driving wise, I mean, ultimately it's a 7-hour drive, driving wise. And that, the drive is just beautiful. And to thank the good Lord for that. I was unwell. I mean, like everything I put in everything I consumed, I was over the actual illness by like 20 hours into it. That was fast. But it had wrecked my system. I mean, God, it had so disrupted and wrecked my system. And the doctor, the last time I had neurovirus, I had a conversation with her about it and why it seemed then, and I guess now the same, to hit me so hard. And she said, you've got like 7% body fat. So you have nothing to run on. Your body has to switch over to consuming mostly muscle and increasingly muscle for you to be alive. So you don't have like a bunch of fat that can be full of water for your body to use. And so that could be really dangerous, the dehydration, because you can't even take in a lot of water because of the pain and what it means to immediately throw up. And so it was just totally wrecking me. But thank God the drive was nice. Blue skies, puffy white clouds, and optimism in the air. I was going to head on down, and got down there, got settled, and had some really just moments where I was just like, am I going to the hospital? Am I going to end up going to the hospital in Tennessee? I was that bad. I mean, it was at that point, it was all just the can't eat and the extreme pain. So suffering with the extreme pain of upper and lower abdomen, and not being able to eat and just like sip water. Everything I was eating was just instant problems. And I really thought, I was like, I'm getting close here. Rapunzel was panicking, thinking that maybe it's time to go to the hospital. And so ended up though, I was like determined mentally that I am going to be fine to go to this picnic. I am going to be in good shape to go to this picnic. Woke up on Saturday morning, and it was still a little bit of pain, but I hadn't eaten really much of anything, but I was like, okay, I drank some water. I was like, I can just like mentally. And of course, then once I was thinking about going, and I knew the great Yiz the Unifier was going to be there, of course, the hostess with the mostest. I started feeling like the good vibes from it, just like pulling energy from the ether. Like I don't even need it from my body. I just pull it from the ether. You better believe that when I leave this body, you all are in trouble. The West is going to be saved. If it's not saved while I'm here in the flesh, it's going to be saved when I kick it. because this spirit is going to come out like you wouldn't believe. Just pull him from the ether. And ended up heading on over. Glorious day. Beautiful. The weather is perfect. The dogwoods are blooming. The pink dogwoods, the white dogwoods, the red buds, which are kind of like a purple, if you don't know that. A lot of trees with their young leaves on it, and really a metaphor, all of that, for the recapture of our destiny. That spirit of love, hope, and redemption that we bring to our brothers and sisters, and that we bring to people of goodwill of all races, of all backgrounds, who can recognize that the great evil of our age is the anti-white narrative. How it effectuates all its successes over more than 100 years, far more than 100 years, but easily visible and understandable over that time frame, as a form of retributive justice, no matter against the white race, no matter how wrong-headed, no matter how unfair, no matter how disastrous, so obviously disastrous for society, an anti-white idea can be. It succeeds again and again and again because it has the anti-white moral imperative that has not had something to contend with it until the Go Free method. And so here we head on up there, show up with Rapunzel, and the great ascend the hill on my last, pulling energy from the ether. And I'm still not far from 100%, folks, by the way. I'm like maybe, I don't know, maybe like 70% at the moment. My throat is toast from stomach acid. Can't even tell you. Anyhow, and there I get to the top of and there she is. Yiz the Unifier. Just like last year. She actually turns around and she says, it's like deja vu. Because it was. And there she is. And she's cooking. You could smell in the air this aroma, the absolute succulent smell, this redolence on the air of her fantastic cooking. Now it's like world renowned now, the great Yiz the Unifier. And that's what she will feed you with. Had mountains of food there. And she, of course, was not just cooking, but she was the hostess. She was a waitress. She was the entertainer. She was a greeter. She was introducing people. She was getting conversations started. Just an absolutely affable nature, life of the party that really is the engine of the Yiz Patriotic Picnic, and truly wonderful. And as I would say, created a real comity, a real bonhomie, a real brotherhood, a real camaraderie at the event. And you had folks there from different circles within the white sympathetic sphere. So that's explicit and implicit, and all good people. We sat down, and Yiz immediately came over and brought me this delicious pork chop with bacon on it. I saw a guy on an ad that popped up. Maybe it was on Instagram. I don't know. But he was trying to badmouth bacon. And I felt like reaching through the phone and choking him. Are you kidding me? I'm going to badmouth bacon. Anyhow, it was so good. And then she had the kebabs she brought out. And it looked like they were just handed down from heaven. They were so delicious looking. And I tell you what, I mean, my stomach was just like, don't. You know what's going to happen. But I was like, I'm afraid this has got to be on my palate, my friends. So I chowed down. I paid for it a little bit later, but I chowed down. And it was just so good. It was totally worth it. And that tells you how worth it is. When you risk being either voluntary or involuntarily going into the hospital, like perforce of like society saying he's unconscious, take him to the hospital now. When you do that, it has to be good, right? So why would you miss this? And so we ate, we had great conversation. Everybody I met there, wonderful people. 3 of 12, which is Yiz co-host over on her Discordant Dragons that you can watch every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. He was there, conversation with him. He's a great guy. And a lot of good people. I don't know exactly who I can mention and not mention, but wonderful people. And you can learn more specifically about and from some of the participants by going over to Yiz channel here on YouTube, and she or one of the other moderators will provide the link if she's still here to her channel, so you can get over there. You can watch the show where we talk. I showed up there for a while and waxed verbose about some of the, I guess, more important concepts of Go Free, kind of buttressing what was already being discussed. And you'll hear from some of the other participants who were there and how they enjoyed it and what their perception was. And then while I was there, I also went off to the side, and you all will know the video is still on. Thank God this one was not. Last year, I did a stream from it, and it just disappeared. But it's still up on YouTube, still available. So you can watch my stream from the actual event. You can see the weather somewhat. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell that I was not well and that I was severely dehydrated. But we did it. We made it. We made it happen. And I had Yiz come over live. It was fantastic. Got to talk about the picnic and the importance of community. So we need to be doing this. This is all about stage 3, really, is getting together in person. And these don't have to be gigantic events. Absolutely not. But we do need to begin having these associations. We do need to begin coming into person, shaking hands, and having a coffee, if nothing else. Getting to know each other a little better. Because this is, and actually 3 of 12, I didn't get to hear much of what he was saying. I showed up and he was saying a little something about how different I was than what he expected of people who care about white people's victimization, and how positive I was, and the energy I had, and that I was smiling, and that I had the answers to the questions that people had about the work here we do in Going Free, and the method we use, the practice that we employ, and that everything was so smooth and honest and sort of wrapped in positive energy that it was, I think he used the word uncanny. We have nothing to fear. We in service to white well-being. Now, having said that, let me just say as a caveat, there are some people out there who feel that they have to remain anonymous to conduct their advocacy. And for them, I say stay anonymous. If that's what feels, totally anonymous, there are different degrees of anonymity, but if that's what feels right for you, if that's where you are going to be most productive for white well-being, please do that. Please stay in whatever level of anonymity you have to remain to conduct your advocacy. Don't use anonymity as an excuse to not conduct advocacy. You have to be conducting advocacy. We're running out of time. They're going to make you buy homes. Oh, they already are doing that. So we have no time for games anymore. I know a lot of people, I'm very surprised. I'll get back to the point in a moment here, but about how we need to be phase 3 is for those who are able and willing to come out and say, yeah, I object to the victimization of white people on the basis of our birth, just like I object to the victimization of anyone on the basis of their birth. But maybe I'll just stick with that. Maybe I'll just keep rolling with that, because it's an important point that really separates us from the rest of the white sympathetic sphere. Because so many folks out there, they know what they're saying is wrong. They know what they're saying is immoral. Now, wrong or immoral to who? To our brothers and sisters. That's all that matters. Not to an anti-white, not to the anti-white morality, not by that metric. But our brothers and sisters are infected with anti-whiteism to various degrees. And so these opinions, and some of these opinions held by people who claim to be advocates for Western kind or sympathetic in some way, some of their opinions wouldn't even need anti-whiteism to be considered reprehensible by our brothers and sisters. Those people, because of their opinions, they are put into anonymity. They put themselves there because they know they won't be accepted. And the consequence of being in that environment is to be in an echo chamber. It's to lose touch with what ordinary folks out there are able to heed. You know, it's like we were talking about the AI being able to message people with the messages that they need to hear. Well, the AI would be as blind as one of these LARPers if you didn't feed it information, if it wasn't able to get out and get all the data of what people are interested in, what they want to hear, these folks, because they know that what they're saying is ugly and objectionable to our brothers and sisters, they go into these groups, into these echo chambers, and they just say it to each other back and forth. That's it. And then they'll come to us. People are actually going out into the real world and they'll say, no, you have to shout these ugly things to people's faces to move this window. You can't move any window. Forget about it. I see this conversation that this sometimes people are speak of the Overton window sort of like as a placeholder because they don't know what else to put there. But other times they think that you can actually change the conversation inside of the anti-white narrative. You can't. You simply cannot. No more so than the characters in a novel take the pen away from the author. You have to be totally out of their story to change the conversation. So they think, well, if you just say the most ugly thing out there, now you've opened it up for discussion. No, you've confirmed that the demon in that story exists and it is embodied by you. So because there is this inertia of the past, of always, when you object to the anti-white narrative, hiding in the shadows, many of us will have to actively question ourselves. Do I need to be in the shadow? Do I need to not step out? You know, if people at my work found out that I object to the victimization of white people on the basis of their birth, just like I object to the victimization of anyone on the basis of their birth, is it so anti-white at my place of employment? Or is it an industry? Is it so much of an industry, or such an industry or employer, I should say, that pressure could easily be applied to get rid of me? If it's not, then you shouldn't be hiding anymore. You should be able to come out with folks who are white positive and be able to break bread, have a picnic, get to know each other, and get some practice using the lexicon, using the dialectics of the Go Free method. Now, if you are in one of those situations, then, as I said earlier, stay in that situation. Stay in your anonymity and do the good that you're doing for white well-being and the totality of the West. But otherwise, yeah, step out of the anonymity. And, for us, how am I received as I advocate? How is Yiz received as she advocates for white well-being with the lexical and dialectical tools of the Go Free method? Well, white people married to non-white people are able to heed it and adopt it and endorse it. Their non-white spouses able to heed and adopt. People who are MAGA able to heed and adopt, see the value, and not run screaming from the park, hearing us share these powerful tools that ultimately end up empowering everyone. For God's sakes, I mean, if I can be like this close to being admitted to the hospital and be seen as totally upbeat, totally positive, big smile, great energy, you can make it. You can show up. Now, when you can. I mean, we have work responsibilities. Stick with those responsibilities. You got family responsibilities. Maintain those responsibilities in those relationships. But you know what I mean. It's what I've always talked about and will continue to talk about is the importance of maintaining your base of operation. What do I mean by that? That's your housing, your job, your family, whatever it takes so that you have stability, emotional, financial stability, so that you have that firm base from which to launch out all of your acts of love on the world. You've got to, so I understand totally. Don't screw that base up. Don't say, well, Jason's saying that he almost had to be admitted to the hospital and yet he went, had a great time and took the message to some new folks. So therefore I'm skipping work, I mean, unless you can get away with skipping work or get away with skipping class or get away with whatever it is. Don't look at it that way. But there are plenty of opportunities that you could get a coffee with someone, or you could have that picnic, or you could have that get together, that people are just like, nah, not going to do it. Now, also, I want to express the caveat for young ladies out there. Don't just go meet up with people that you don't know. Be sensible, be wise about that. Definitely don't do something like that. Let people know where you are, what you're doing. If you can have somebody there you already know, or two or more, obviously. But having said that, this is all about building in-person relationships where and when we can. Now, I'm not unduly giving too much attention to that, as you hear elsewhere in the white sympathetic sphere, because they do nothing. They actually do nothing. They get together and they'll gripe about how bad the world is, their doom document, and then they'll speak negatively about Jewish people or Black people for the entire get together, and then they go home and then wash and repeat. That's what they do. So they're like, oh, you're not getting together doing what we do. No shit. I remind people that before the internet, which was during my lifetime, it was all IRL and we didn't take anything over. So drop the IRL accomplishes shit argument. It is part of a program moving forward. The virtual, the IRL when it can happen as part of a program moving forward. There aren't going to be an infinite number of opportunities. So a patriotic picnic, like a Yiz picnic, white positive picnic, is something that I hope to be able to see you at in the future. Maybe we can have, maybe there'll be more picnics. It'll be wonderful. But it was a great time, and I really enjoyed being there and having a good conversation, good brother and sisterhood, and hope that the next one I'm at, that you will be there and we'll get to meet. If not again, then meet the first time maybe. But let me see what you all are saying. I mean, and this is right on the heels of coming back from the Texas conference, which was, just such a grand success as well for us. Such a grand success for us that I really feel like things are happening exactly as they should. And we have a lot more exciting things coming in the near future as well. So look forward to that. I'm going to take a look at the financial gifts, and if there are any comments that you all have tagged me with, and then we'll see about rolling out of here, because we never even reached 100 people watching today. So not going to stay much longer. It looks like we're blank on Entropy. And let's see what Spartan has to say. Looks like Spartan has given us another ice cream of cryptocurrency over there on DLive. Thank you so much. Let's see what he says. It says, yes, they have fail safes. I guess this is for the AI or self-aware machine. I think he says also they also have neuroscientists working on building computers along with regular computer engineers. He says something about brain cells. You mean organic brain cells growing on a microchip? But he says might not be possible in our lifetime or ever for a self-aware machine, but he suspects it's only a matter of time. Maybe so. Maybe so. I would think that maybe, I don't know, some full sort of integration, like with a brain with a computer, but I don't know, that would, of an actual human brain. But who knows? Maybe there's some sci-fi we can look into and see what they say there. Let's check. Entropy is blank. Cash App is... Oh my gosh. Is this real? No way. Is this real? Folks, I think we need to fill the chat. We need to absolutely fill the chat with 007s, raucous emojis, diamonds, swashbuckling flags, swords, crowns. Put crowns down. Put some crowns down for the great No White Guilt Clips, who has just humbled me in a big way, financially gifting just now on Cash App $800. Man. What a champion. Please, 007s, raucous emojis, hearts, white hearts. Put some crowns down. Put some big crowns down. I don't even know how to respond to that. No white guilt clips. He just turned out like 2 clips over as many days. In addition of yours truly, in addition to working for a living and everything else he has going on, and then he just financially gifts $800. That's how you, he's a real leader. No white guilt clips, brother. We love you. You are a genuine leader for white well-being. That's how you lead. No messing around. An absolute true champion. Big 007s. Big. He just made 2 clips. You got to ask yourself, really, how much are you doing for white well-being? Because that's how much you're doing for yourself and your family. Are you making clips? Are you sharing his clips? Are you leafleting? Are you wallpapering your community? Are you financially gifting like this? A normal, folks, I'm going to tell you right now, this isn't like some 55-year-old guy who's established at some career and he's raking in big dough. It's a normal guy. My God, clips. Really big, stupendous. Pants says, absolutely. Yiz says, Clips is a true hero. He really is. Franklin, crowns, like, exactly. Put the crowns down. Put the crowns down for this man, ladies and gentlemen. Toss the gems at his feet. I wish we had. We're going to celebrate you again this coming Sunday for this, Clips. We will celebrate Clips again for this $800 financial gift because there aren't enough people here to properly celebrate this man. I want to fill a stadium to celebrate No White Guilt Clips. I am seriously. Who's going to help me carry on our shoulders No White Guilt Clips next time we're together? Maybe it'll be a Yiz patriotic picnic. Anybody want to step up and carry him with me? That's just epic. That is so epic. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, I feel like asking the question, posing the, like, if we only had one more Clips, the world would be ours. You know, I mean, seriously. If we only had one more No White Guilt Clips, the world would be ours. Man. And now we got another true up-and-comer, a guy who's just rocking it. I guess there are people out there who watch the old videos too, but they don't comment. Cool Papa J Magic is on every single video. He just keeps showing up on he's watching all the old videos. This guy's becoming a total Herculean champion. Financially gifting $25. Get some raucous emojis for this hero who is empowering himself with the lexicon and dialectics of the Go Free method. $25. And he says with those $25, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Really thank you for showing up. By the way, Clips didn't say anything with that $800 financial gift because do you really have to? A working guy? Oh, my God. $25. Cool Papa J Magic. God bless you, brother. That's fantastic. His testimonials, he's turning up everywhere. I love to see it. A true up-and-coming champion in service to white well-being. God bless you, brother. $800 from No White Guilt Clips. Oh my God. Truly amazing. God bless you, brother. I'm looking right at you. No White Guilt Clips. Just shared another one of your clips. And what a powerhouse. We bring the absolute best to the service of white well-being. That's just the reality. Being here requires that you do things rather than just watch and be entertained and hear about the doom. Actually, interestingly enough, somewhere else in that interview that we were watching earlier with Tucker and Musk, Musk began to talk to a point that I've spoken to about several times on these streams over the year, and that is this hearing about danger, and that genetically we're programmed to want to hear about danger. And that's, remember, I've talked about how it's like a drug, and people who endlessly they doom document, that's what they're doing, is they're appealing to this genetic imperative, though it's now destructive because you can't do anything about this doom. When we lived in small groups, tribes, small tribes, if you will, learning about something that was dangerous or a story about something dangerous was pertinent, and we could take steps to avert the disaster of the doom. So it might be that, you know, that place that we always went to get whatever to eat, to hunt and kill some animal to kill. Well, now all of those tall grassy fields are full of venomous snakes. Well, that would be something we would want to hear. And those who would survive would be the ones who would want to hear, because then they would stay away from that field and they would go hunt elsewhere. That genetic imperative has remained in us, but now it's useless. Now it's almost useless. Now it is used against us by doom documenters. Let me tell you how much worse. Let me tell you another horrible thing. And you feel like you need to know it, even though you can't do anything about it. And you think about the scale of how ridiculous it gets, all the way up to planet Nibiru is going to run into Earth. Okay, thanks for telling me. Well, I know I can override that genetic imperative because I know it's useless. I can't do anything about it. But apparently vast numbers of people, they can't. So they'll be showing up at other content creators over the course of the day and night to hear about all the doom that they feel like they need to know. So there are few in the world who are actually change agents. Cool Papa J Magic, No White Guilt Clips, who are actual change agents, who make a difference in the world, who are actually living. Everyone whose brain is working and who has a pulse is alive, but there are very few people who are actually living. And that's where we are. So God bless the heroes in these very dark days. But I'm going to tell you right now, we've got some more exciting things coming up. And it doesn't include me recovering from neurovirus. Yiz, a little earlier, was talking in the live chat about how she's really angry about this mortgage issue because yet it's another way to steal from white people. Yeah, it absolutely is. And it will be. They won't be applying this to non-white people. The bank will be sued out of existence. Sam says, man, I told people the same thing during the 2000-2008 period when I had friends buying houses on those loans, the adjustable rate mortgage. They came out way behind and couldn't figure out why. Sad. Is that Shelly, hello. Hello to you, sister. Great to see you. Yeah, I was after the picnic. I left the picnic and I was not immediately, but boy, by the night, like the energy that I had used to be gregarious and etc. at the picnic, it was all gone. And it was just, I was in really rough shape, I gotta say. Then on the way back, I was in really rough shape. Oh, poor Rapunzel. Was like, he's gonna die. Sam said something about paper houses. What's that, brother? There's the great Promethean promulgation. Look at what Promethean promulgation wrote here. He said he offered to pay the entire year's lease for, I guess, a apartment that he wanted to rent. Offered to pay the entire year's lease up front, and they still denied him. Wow. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely infuriating. I'm really sorry to hear that, brother. My God. Says, and because of MPs, no other whites would help me. I count myself lucky I got out of that situation. Every single person that got out of that situation needs to leverage fortune. Yes, you absolutely do. Very well said. Very, very well said. Franklin said 7%. Wow. For my body fat. Yes, it's quite low. I'm quite shredded. Peter says body fat helps and works good for illness. It really does. My doctor was like, you go straight to the hospital. You get really sick, you're going to end up straight in the hospital. She wasn't kidding. Elaine says, oh no, I didn't realize how sick you were. Yeah, I'm still trying to. I think I'm about like 70%. So when we wrap up here, I'm going to go try to eat. And hopefully systems are coming back online. It's like, this is like sci-fi. Like, is this system back online yet? Is that system back online? Trying. We're getting there. All right. Brad C has a couple of pieces of bacon and a licking the lips emoji. I know. Why would anyone, and this is supposed to be like the beginning of the commercial was like he was some kind of maybe even like alternative health coach. No, that was the mainstream anti-white narrative that they fed to the white population that got us off of eating things like mountains of bacon and onto eating poisonous cereals. And everybody knows. By the way, folks, I'm glad I just thought of this. But for my whole life, since I started it in, I guess it was high school, I started talking about how ordinary over-the-counter drugs are harming babies in utero while the mother's gestating. And everybody, I can go all the way back very clearly in my memory of teachers laughing at me, fellow students thinking my statements were ridiculous. And I said, what I went on was reason and logic. These are foreign substances, and they get into the woman's body. And this is the most critical time in the life of a creature, is not when it's growing. That's the second most critical. But when it's being made, that's the most critical time. And I had all of these teachers, health teachers saying, oh no, look right here. It says that none of these things is class whatever drug. They don't get into the birth sac. They don't get in through the umbilical cord. They don't get into the fetus. And I said, how do you know? They know. How do they know? How could it not? Are the vitamins that the mother is eating by way of that are coming through the food, the minerals coming by way of the food, is that reaching the baby? Well, yes. Well, then why isn't the drug? Well, they'll tell you, I found out many years later, one thing, that they will, drug manufacturers, over the counter and prescription, will say this drug is off the list for pregnant mothers because the rate at which it causes a visual deformality is high. That's the standard. Now, check it out for yourself. Maybe I'm wrong. Check it out for yourself. Maybe it's just my opinion. So, for everything else, they say it's okay for a pregnant mother to take. It's because they can't see a physical abnormality, a visual deformity. They can't see one. That doesn't mean it's not ruining the baby. That doesn't mean it's not causing all of this handicapped population that we now have. And in fact, I submitted that it indeed was. And because of Tylenol's prevalence, it's everywhere. I always would use Tylenol. I would say, mark my words, Tylenol and other over-the-counter drugs are harming babies while the mothers are carrying them and taking these drugs. Any amount of them. Mark my words. I'm 100% certain of it. My opinion. Well, there's now a lawsuit against Tylenol, acetaminophen. Many lawsuits. Some companies have already just paid out because they believe the evidence is so mountainous, so voluminous, that acetaminophen is causing autism that they would just rather pay it out than have to deal with even a bigger payment when they lose the lawsuit. So look into it for yourself. There are lawsuits going on all over the place now against acetaminophen, including Tylenol. And when Rapunzel showed it to me, I fell off my chair because all these years, all the way back to high school, I've been saying they're taking Tylenol and it's damaging the brains. It's damaging all of these careful systems that have all these balances and everything. And that's why you're getting such a sick population. And as I say, I use Tylenol because it's prevalent. It's everywhere. People are taking it. It's just fine. Just go down as much or as little Tylenol as you want to be fine. Apparently not. Apparently that's why you have these mothers and these fathers, but it's mostly mothers. It's like a lot of single mothers. And they're like either holding the hand or the forearm or they are walking, they're walking and they have like this doddering boy or girl with them for the rest of their lives. How weak of a people does that make us? You've downed the IQ, and it's not with all this exotic shit. It's not, they don't have to put fluoride in your water and have that have some sort of deleterious. Are you kidding me? Sneak it in? No, it's like, here it is in your face. Just take this to get rid of your headache. Okay. They've got all this. Trust me, folks. They've snuck it in here and they snuck it in there. And they spray it on the corn in the middle of the night. Then they feed the corn that they sprayed it on in the middle of the night to the cows. And then the cows get butchered up, and they're butchered up in inhumane ways. And then that releases the hormone of the chemical that was sprayed into the corn in the middle of the night. It's like some sort of weird, like parallel Christmas song almost. You can go back through each iteration. You have to say each one as you come around to each verse. It gets longer and longer. The chorus line, until it finally reaches you coming from McDonald's, whatever. They don't need to do any of that. Human beings are going to have pain. Human beings are going to have of various types, migraines, tension headaches, joint pain. They're going to have all of this, and they're just going to produce drugs, and they're going to say, here you go. And they know that they don't know. They know that they don't know whether or not it is totally, and they're just bathing in Tylenol or whatever. And you take it. Sneak it in. What a joke. That's never how any of this shit is done. Never. Why bother? Franklin says, thoughts on the Charlottesville arrests. Are you talking about the guys in a guy in Romania? What are you talking about, Franklin? Tag me again, brother. They had initially arrested a number of people after Charlottesville, and these were the ANT-NAT or AN-TAG for antagonist. People who want to push back against the system, and so they choose to obey the system in what that is supposed to look like. They go right up and they say, where can I truckle? Where would you like me to truckle on you? Where can I plant my knees on the ground and truckle you? And the system says, well, right here. You just need to act like a violent SOB, say nasty things, have some fight clubs, and train fighting, train shooting as an entire group, get lots of video of it, and then cross state lines and assault people. That's all you need to do. Because then you're perfect. You're about to take down the U.S. Fucking morons. You're about to do it. And there were people who traveled across state lines. They got what they knew they would get, which is arrested and prison sentences. They knew what they were getting into, and they got what they were getting into. And some of them were arrested and tried and went to jail. Some of them admitted to their guilt, went to jail, and some of them, the cases were dropped or were thrown out rather than dropped. And then I believe some of those cases have been reopened. And maybe that's what Franklin is referring to. Let's see. Okay, I found again where Franklin's asking about the retroactive Charlottesville arrests. Let's hear, Franklin, if I can get some more info from you. He says, no, not those. There were more arrests recently over the torch march 5+ years ago. Yes. Yeah, what were they charged with? Rory is here. I was in downtown Los Angeles in 92 riots, when the 92 riots broke out. All the white people were leaving the city. He says he has respect for the non-white people who stood there and fought. I don't have, I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, that you have respect for them. White people, I feel kind of like, I want to be able to have a people like they do, don't you? Because we don't have a people. We have a bunch of radical individualists that think individualism is some wonderful thing, when in reality it's poisonous. They had each other to rely upon, and they're not white guilted from anti-whiteism. And so they're able to stand together and defend each other and defend their property. The white people are individualists, so they had to flee like rats, which is what they look like to me. Like at the fist fights I got in my junior high period, which you can read about in Crucible, and you'd have all these white kids standing around. Could put an end to it immediately. Totally outnumbering the anti-whites present. Could put an end to it immediately. And they did nothing. We watched that video of the old white guy that, lucky for him, his life wasn't ruined or ended. Had a whole restaurant full of white people. Could have put an immediate end to those anti-white problem there. And he didn't. They didn't. Because you know why? Because people won't listen to me. That's why. Because people won't listen to me. We need to take this ethno-nationalism and we need to put it in the paper shredder of all time. We need to get rid of it. Because if you want to have white people stick together, then we're going to have to do it on the basis of our biospirit. That's the only way it's going to happen. Shelly, you say you saw ads about what? Tag me again and let me know. NWG Paradigm says baby formula is toxic as well. I'm sure there are, some are more poisonous and some are less or toxic. I would, if a mother needs recourse to a formula, obviously go for the ones that's the most natural. But I would imagine that you could find some hardcore poison. You got to feed your baby, right? So they're not going to sneak into the water. They're not going to sneak into the wells. They're like, oh, you got to feed your baby? Just let capitalism do it. Just let capitalism ruin the population. Why would you need to actively participate in that and get caught and have stooges that you have to pay off or kill to keep it quiet? Just let capitalism do it. Nobody's looking out for the people. And that's another consequence of radical individualism. It's also another consequence of ethno-nationalism. Yiz says, that happened in Albuquerque too. I offered to pay an entire year's lease for a friend of mine who wanted to get a job in ABQ, Albuquerque, and they denied us because they only wanted Section 8. Yeah, it's outright discrimination against white, persecution, discrimination, exploitation of white people. And it's happening because people like Adam Carolla and Tucker Carlson, because they're like, oh, well, the blacks can have all those jobs. And, it's that radical individualism. Adam Carolla saying, and Tucker giggling his cucker ass off, his little Ken doll body giggling it away, when Adam says, well, white privilege is that we don't belong to a group. That's the consequence. Nobody to look out for you. Nobody with millions of dollars like Adam Carolla or Cucker Carlson to look out for you, to help you out, to speak up for you. Black Sun says many people on the other side do use your lexicon often, believe it or not. The one thing they love saying is that if we include others, it will turn into a civic national thing. You mean they say that as like a why they shouldn't include anybody else. This is because they don't have my IQ. They don't have my experience. They don't have my ingenuity. They don't have my creativity. I'm sure they would say to the brain surgeon working on their mother, step aside. I know how to do this better than you because I've thought about it occasionally. Does this look at all like civic nationalism? You know, that's what you need to say to these people, Black Sun. Does this look at all like civic nationalism? Which is all abstractions. That's abstractionist thought. Does it? We've had non-white people come to us that aren't like nationalists for their groups. Normal, good-hearted people come to us and they're like, yeah, I agree. White people are being victimized. We should put an end to this. Black Sun says, you're right about being on the side I tend to be on is very isolating and makes you feel out of touch with society. One thing I do agree with your people is I don't agree with and then that's what it was. Many people on the other side, you don't agree with them saying that. Yeah. Good for you, brother. Thank you for speaking up. St. Thomas says, God bless, no white guilt, and the state of Virginia. Well, I appreciate that. I'm very proud of my state because I came from it. And so therefore, it's proud to have produced me. NWG Paradigm says, you're going to be back online in no time. I know it. Exactly. Elaine says, glad you're finally recovering. I'm working at it. All right, so I guess unless I see more info, says there were more arrests and if the statute of limitations doesn't apply to the former president, do you think it's going to apply to anybody who is white sympathetic, especially one who's an antag? Now, I don't know if there is an expired statute of limitations. And remember, for whatever they're being charged with, remember that all laws and codes and etc. are interpreted through the moral imperative of anti-whiteism, because that's what dominates the landscape. So they can dilate a law, dilate the statute of limitations to ensnare people. If they were only listening to me, and I'm going to say that, and everybody who has a problem with it, I mean, seriously, everyone who has a problem with it was arrogant. Yeah, they wouldn't be in jail. They wouldn't be bent over with their teeth knocked out of their mouth, being sodomized in prison, in federal prison, if they had listened to me. So yeah, they should have listened to me. And I don't give a fuck if you think I'm arrogant. I have a right to be. How many times do I got to be right? I mean, you're just saying you have a tiny dick. That's all. If you're saying, well, I don't like him, he's arrogant. You're just like announcing that you have a tiny dick to the world. Baron White says, will I be able sometime to call into your Go Free stream? Call in this coming Sunday, brother, and talk about the details of the upcoming referendum here in Australia about the anti-white bill, take your voice from Parliament. Yeah. This coming Sunday, 5 p.m., we get started Eastern time. And it's toward the end that we take calls. Please do call in. I'd like to hear about it. Promethean Healing is here. Brad is here. Our sister Ardent White is here. Craig is here. Okay, Shelley says the link between Tylenol and autism. Oh, like for the lawsuits. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yep. Yeah, I didn't even know that was happening. But I was so blown away. I just imagine how weird that was for me. I pulled Tylenol to just like, Tylenol, it's going to be Tylenol for all these years. I wonder if there are any people from over all those years, especially those anti-white teachers. I was going to say worse, especially them that said, ha, 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 you don't know anything about having a baby. Meanwhile, they're like, and meet my son, Autiste. He drools really well, and he can write code. Okay, he can write code, but can he feed himself? No. Okay. Can he take care of it? No. Okay. I'm not impressed anymore. Franklin saying to Brad, no, because he would call the person out for using an anti-white slur and being anti-white. I didn't. What did Brad ask? Franklin, I'm sure, had the right answer. Lavish says, I admire your confidence. Well, thank you so much. You mean the confidence that I'm going to live after getting poisoned with neurovirus? Trying to finish me off. I put on 2 fleece jackets with the hoods up on both of them and under the blankets. And I was getting chills. That stuff is nasty. Okay, so for the arrest, Franklin says the anti-whites are calling the Torchlight March racial intimidation. And racial intimidation, I'll have to look it up. Do you have a link you can send me to an article or something about it so I can look it up? I'd like to see what these charges are. It would be really nice if these people had listened to me. Did they do any good? Did they do any good marching like that? It was a inspiring thing to see people who are white sympathetic come together to express their objection to the white erasure of our history, which is what Charlottesville was all about. They took General Lee down, even when it was illegal to do so. And I had all these older people who were all in like to the legal side of it. They're like, no, all we got to do is read the law books and we can use the law on them. No, you can't. And so, or is it, it's down now, right? It came down. Yeah, it came down. They cut it up. So that was a positive thing. But you're not going to take back the West with marches. You're not, torchlight or otherwise, tiki torch or otherwise, you're not going to take it back. can't believe so many good people have to go to prison. So many lives ruined, children going without fathers and mothers. And I come out and I say, hey, not only do you not have to do that, don't do that because it doesn't help. You'll just ruin your life. Instead, we got something over here that actually benefits. It'll benefit your life, and it enables us to take back our destiny. And then from the white sympathetic sphere, a giant screw you, Jason. You must be a Jew. You must be a Fed. You must be a... I mean, can you believe that? Racial intimidation. Ken, folks, says, are you familiar with accelerationism? Yes, I am. It's one of the... if you believe in it, then, like, if you endorse it, then I'm not insulting you. But it's a position that I think is idiotic. Not saying that you are idiotic. It's just an idiotic position. What makes it idiotic? That we have seen things get bad really quickly in micro form. Like by micro, I mean whole cities and states as well, to a lesser degree than cities. Get bad really fast, go to the dogs very quickly. It did not one bit of difference to change how white people behave, how white people talk about our victimization. We've seen overall, country-wise across the West, things get infinitely worse from where they have been every 10 years, infinitely worse. No change whatsoever to white radical individualism, how white people talked about our victimization or actually refused to talk about it, because of the moral imperative of the day not being challenged by the Go Free method. And the ultimate example is Rhodesia and South Africa, where things have gotten to the point of ritualistic gang rape, torture, and murder, and white people still there talk about events through an anti-white lens and are unable to come together on a central biospirit. So accelerationism only makes things worse. And the evidence is everywhere. I've heard the arguments from people who have studied it, and I've heard all these arguments presented, numerous arguments for accelerationism, and from numerous people. And in every case, I'm able to defeat them in their positions, and they lack all evidence of success of their ideas. So it is, it's really based in a superficial belief that an animal will only move when it experiences pain. But there are a virtual infinite ways that an animal can move to avoid pain. The human animal, particularly of the white race, will move every direction before, every and any direction, before it would move toward coming together for its own well-being. It can't even conceive of it because it does not see its well-being, its individual well-being, by way of its group's well-being. That is what I have. That's why I created many of the concepts I created, was to force the individual to make that conclusion on their own without me having to be there. So if things got bad in an environment where we saw ourselves as a people and we saw our individual well-being by way of our group's well-being, then we would act as a collective. Then individuals could form opinions about threats to the collective that the collective would review and pass judgment on. Now you have people who say, well, you're not talking about the jaywalkers, or you're not talking about this or that, as though there is a collective to review the threat to the collective. There isn't. I'm not saying you hold that opinion. I'm just saying generally. You had one of the biggest proponents of accelerationism recently was that Fed operation. What were they called? Doolittle was the intellectual heavyweight's name, Kurt Doolittle, and talk about living up to that name. Was that really his surname? And then his hand puppet was Red Helmet. And the feds helped them every way they could, in my opinion, to grow their army of do-nothing followers who were just going to celebrate things getting worse so that things could collapse, and then magically there would be this retaking and rebuilding of America. What absolute asininity, and such a great demonstration of how easy it is to create a color revolution. But in this case, that's toothless. And that's exactly what happened there. John Mark, I think, was that guy's name. And I think it was called propertarianism or something like that. Remember their YouTube channel? John Mark's, the red helmeted guy's YouTube channel went through the roof with followers. And he kept saying on all of his videos, it was so brainless. It was made for people with 85 IQs. And a lot of them showed up because all he had to do was say, it's scientific. It's scientific. He would repeat that again and again so that these low IQ people would come away saying, well, this is scientific. Somebody's figured it out, even though no scientific argument had been put forth. It was truly a remarkable control of the human animal. Really was remarkable. And then, of course, they had their first and only big rally where they went out and acquired a space beside another group, one of these idiot groups saying that they're for gun rights rather than for our right to self-defense. Fucking morons. And they sort of like parasitically leapt on to their event so that they could get video of all of these people and make it seem like it was a big propertarianism event. All of the people were there for that because there would be that video footage, there would be those photographs. And then, of course, if you don't remember, two emaciated anti-whites from Black Lives Matter came up to Kurt Doolittle, and they just wanted to talk and get on his megaphone, take it away from him. Not only did he give his megaphone to them, but he started praising their genitals and then pissed himself. Seriously, it's all on video and photographs. Ken Folks says, I need to be on more videos discussing with anti-whites because destroying people with Go Free method would spread like wildfire. Brother, I've thought the exact same thing, but people just won't have me. People won't have me. And they go out, they actually, across the white sympathetic sphere, of course, anti-whites don't want to talk to me, but across the white sympathetic sphere, they don't want to have me there to have their arguments that are nonsense juxtaposition with people who are actually doing something, with adults. Franklin says NWG must hate the winter. I think it's a beautiful time of year, and I hate the cold. You're right, man, with no body fat. But you don't have a lot of body fat. What are you talking about? Stoned Magician says, what's your opinion on Norvin Hobbs? I don't know who that is. I guess I'll look him up really quick before we get out of here. I'm not seeing any big account for that person. Is he? No, in fact, one account doesn't have any content at all. So I don't know. Sam says, you're really a brilliant man. Thank you for that, Sam. Thank God we have you to help explain how we can save ourselves as white people. This stream is gold. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. Elaine says, I got banned from Facebook after I posted John Mark memes. I'm embarrassed to say, Jason. Well, don't be embarrassed. I mean, we're all coming from places of screwing up in the past. If anything, when you've screwed up and then you're able to fix things and move forward in a strong, powerful way, that's something to really brag about. That's something that you want people to know. You're like, look what I came from. Look what I was doing before. There's no shame in entering the fray and making mistakes, especially in white sympathy, because it's just entirely full of mistakes everywhere you look. Elaine says, too bad Elijah took down all those videos, including the video he did with you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. And thank you for bringing that up, because I do want to say that I really firmly hope that he will post those videos again, because, and obviously including the interview that he did with me, because you all did such an epic job stepping up to the plate. We owned that house. We didn't allow the Ant-Nats, the Antags, to come in there and slander the shit out of us as they normally do. We dominated that bitch, that house. And Elijah and I had a brilliant conversation. He's a great guy. He's a funny guy. He was a great guy in that conversation. So I really hope he will put it back up, because when I saw that he had taken down almost all his videos, including that interview, that my very first thought was, oh my God, everybody's comments. Oh my God, all of that effort that went into that from the community, from Team White Wellbeing, Team WWB. What a victory. And now he's pulled it down. So I hope it's not deleted. I hope it's just taken down. Maybe it's because he is signed a deal with Rumble, and Rumble doesn't want that content up and visible when he gets started on Rumble, but won't mind later if he posts it again. So we'll see. Or maybe he's with his new baby now and his wife, and maybe he's having to deal with a lot of complaints, comments coming up on different videos, and he's like, I just don't want to deal with it right now, so he hid all of them. Let's hope that that's what's going on. Looks like we got is this another ice cream? If not, well, then I thank you again, Spartan, for an ice cream's worth of cryptocurrency over there. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gents, I think we're going to wrap it up, and I'm going to get something to eat and try to recover. Shelley asking about his pending litigation of Elijah's. I don't know if it's because of that or not. I don't know really anything about. I didn't get involved in what exactly was happening there. So I don't know who's right, who's wrong, and I don't want to get involved. But I wouldn't think it would have to deal with any pending litigation. I would think it would be much more something in the future, like a deal with a platform. And I could see a platform like Rumble hiring Elijah as quickly as they'd ignore the shit out of me. He's funny. He's got a good look, run a professional show. He's got the wife there. She's attractive. Yeah, I could see them hiring him. And if they did, then great. And I hope he does wonderfully over there. But I also hope he puts those videos back up, especially the one that I was on. I had a great time. And maybe he'll have me again. But I want to give a big thank you again, big heartfelt thank you to No White Guilt Clips. Truly an unbelievable gentleman. And thank you so very much. So I'm going to thank you again, though, on this coming Sunday, when hopefully I'm closer to 100%, and hopefully we can get at least 100 people to show up. I mean, I'm only streaming on how many platforms? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 platforms. So hopefully we can get more folks. And any ideas you have, maybe I can juggle monkeys or maybe juggle flaming monkeys. We'll bring some folks in, whatever it might be. But otherwise, a big heartfelt thank you to No White Guilt Clips. That's totally amazing. $800. I'm gonna be humbled by that for some time, brother. God bless you. And folks, you know that we'll definitely be back. It's Tuesday. Might be back during the week, maybe for a roll in, and maybe do the Buddy Brown thing because we can make fun of him. And then definitely on Sunday, we'll be back for Going Free again, where we'll be getting fired up, I hope. So I look forward to seeing you all then. I love you all. Let's go free.